Morning, gardeners and homesteaders. Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. I hope you're having an absolutely perfect day. And it's coastal North Carolina. It is warm, to say the least. We're approaching 90 degrees today. And tomorrow, I think we're going to get to 92 or 94, which just really brings to mind the fact that the summer pest season is upon us. And I want to start talking about pests a little bit on this channel. Actually, not a little bit, a lot. It's something that can really get you and just ruin your garden. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to do a couple of videos about this. And in this one, I'm just going to talk about the steps in order to get through your pest issues. So as of right now in our garden, the only crop that I have currently growing that I'm really worried about pests for right now would be the squash. Tomatoes, not so much of a big deal. You know, they'll get pests, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The potatoes, they're winding down at this point, so we're not really overly concerned about the potatoes getting any pests. The onions don't get many pests. These beds are empty. They need to be planted now. And then the peppers, you know, I've never really had a big issue with peppers and pests. So that doesn't mean they can't happen, but I always am still vigilant, but I haven't had a huge issue with them. Now, clearly there's other crops. I've got green beans, or not green beans, I've got cucumbers that will be visible on this trellis soon. They do definitely get pests as far as like cucumber worms, and then cucumber beetles, stuff like that. And then we have our green beans on that trellis over yonder. They will get pests as well. Usually it's the Japanese beetle. And last year I didn't treat them fast enough, and the Japanese beetle actually transferred the mosaic virus to my green beans, which ruined my crop. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And then the snow peas, they would get aphids. But as of right now in the garden, I really just want to focus on like checking for pests and like the first steps that we can do. You can come through and just look at the first step, first of all, is just looking and trying to identify a pest. I see something a little suspicious here. You can see this damage here. I'm not overly concerned about it as of yet, but I'm going to keep my eye on it. And that's really a very good step to take. You know, you don't want to go crazy treating, like something's clearly been chewing on this leaf right here. You can see that looks to me like it may actually be squash bug damage or the squash beetle, but I'm not seeing any right now. So we're just going to keep our eye out. And sometimes you really got to look really up. There he is. There he is. So step one, get rid of the culprit. And so now we know that we have a pest in our garden. Did not expect to see a pest, to be honest. I gotta get these nasty guts off my hands, yuck. But I did not come out here and expect to find a pest. My squashes, I'm trying to wipe this off as I talk. My squashes have been growing really fast lately. They've like doubled in size in the past week. So it's not surprising to see that. So we know that we have the pest. We know we've now correctly identified it, and it's time to treat. So let me see if I can find my treatment. And I use multiple treatments, but I really narrow it down to 3 different sprays. And then the rest of the treatments I do are just what you saw, hand picking, which is absolutely crucial to this. Now, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I am gonna do my best to stay in the shade today. It is hot. And I don't really want to, it's not gonna stay hot. It's only gonna be in the 90s for like 2 days, and it's gonna go back into the high 70s to mid 80s. So I don't really wanna deal with it today. But for that squash bug that we just saw, squash beetle, I'm gonna use this neem oil right here. This is a cold pressed neem oil, which what it means is when it's cold, it's solidified. So you've got to get it warm, which this time of year, it's not a big deal. But like if I wanted to use it in the winter time, because I grow in the winter, I may have to set it in the greenhouse on a warm day and get it. But even then, when I put it into the cold water, it'll then re-solidify. So we just want to make sure that it is, you can hear it, that it's nice and open. So that's melted, we can use that. And then I will mix it. Very crucial in organic dish soap. Very crucial, it's like mixing oil and water. So the soap allows it to bond together. This is in its all natural form. So that's why we use this. And what it does, they all basically do the same thing to the animal or to the insect, is when they eat it, it kind of jams up their digestive system and they end up dying out. This is bee safe. So they've done studies on it. They just did another study on it and they still found it to be bee safe. I wouldn't spray it on your hive or anything like that, but you know, I have a couple hives right over there and we have not had any issues at all. So we use that for beetles, Japanese beetles and stuff like that. The other ones that we use for, you know, like caterpillars and worms, and I'll show you those as we need them, but we use BT, and then we have a kill all, no matter what, everything's dying, even the good stuff. So we keep that on deep reserve. We don't really want to use it unless we have to. And even then it's going to be plant specific, but we will use pyrethrin. And if that comes, I've used it once last year. I had cucumber beetles and I couldn't get rid of them. I used them, they went away, and I only sprayed that plant. I would not use it unless I had to, but it's still an organic treatment, but it's not selective. So just remember that. And I don't really like to use, on that note, it's easier to use a non-selective treatment, but you're kind of nuking everything good in your garden at the same time, and I don't really want to do that. So now that we know that there's a cucumber beetle, look, there's another one. Look at that. You thought you were slick and gonna get away. Taking them out of the food chain, baby. So we know now that they're on 2 plants, but they can be on more. So we have to spray this whole bed right here. And it's important that not only do we spray the tops, but we have to get up underneath as well. Because what you'll do is if you look hard enough, more than likely what you're gonna find are eggs. And I'm not seeing any eggs right now. I guarantee you that there's eggs. I see another squash beetle over there. So I guarantee you there's eggs on these leaves somewhere. So we have to make sure that we treat for it. So we're just keeping our eye visually open, and that's really important. I mean, like I said, I didn't expect to see anything out here. And as soon as I came out here and I really looked at the plants, boom, there was some damage. So that's part of it. You start to recognize damage, and it's not one of those things where you're gonna know instantly. Sometimes it, you know, plants will grow different ways. You know, they may have a genetic anomaly. Ooh, excuse me, that took a lot out of me. Anomaly in it that will cause a leaf to grow weird. You may have some other issue, so don't freak out when you see something different. But right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm seeing another one. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna hand pick all of them. And that's gonna take a lot of the adults out of it. Oh, by the way, I hit my head in the greenhouse. Look at that. That thing's nasty, boy. I don't even know if you can see it, but it was painful. But we're gonna pull those out of there, get that breeding crop out of there, and then treat for it. But you can't just treat once, okay? This goes back to the previous video I did where I was talking about it's not up to chance. This is where that kind of starts to fall in line, where your knowledge is gonna be what propels you into your successful garden. So there's a treatment interval for pests, and it's usually every 7 to 10 days. So from the sighting of the first pest, we treat, and then 7 to 10 days later, you come back and you treat again. And I know I said this in a previous season, but I'm gonna say it again because I've got a lot of new viewers and it's really important. You do that, you take the first one, takes out all of the breeding adults, the majority of them, maybe not all of them. But like I said, if you've got pests on there, even if you don't see eggs, you need to assume that there's eggs. So that means that there's gonna be eggs. Well, in 7 to 10 days, they should hatch. You'll treat it again, and that will take them out. Then, in theory, you come back and you do a third test, a third treatment. 7 to 10 days after that, and that should kind of wrap up everything, kind of do a clean sweep, you know, and get everything into the dustpan, throw it away. Because if you don't do anything less than that, what you're doing is you're sweeping it under the rug. And eventually the rug's gonna fill up and it's all gonna poof, and you're just gonna have nothing but death and destruction on your hands. And this really hinders your success in your garden, your harvest, and really your morale, which I've seen people, I know people that quit gardening because they couldn't keep up with the pests, but it was also because they didn't want to treat for the pests. And that's something it's foolish in my mind to not treat for pests, because invariably it's going to happen. It's the way of the world. It's the way nature works. They have to feed too. I don't care if the whole yard is covered in squash beetles right now, but I don't want them on my squash. So I don't do a broad treatment all over everything, but I definitely do for all the crops that they're affecting. I'll treat those as well. So you may not have asked this question, but you should have asked it, is when do I treat? Meaning, what time of day do I treat? So right now it's barely the morning hours. It's not a good time to treat right now. What can happen when you put treatment on your plant is it can have a negative adverse reaction to it in the heat of the day, when the sun's beating down on it directly and it's hot. So we don't want to do that. We want to take our time, and I want to come out here in the evening. And when you ask evening, that's very subjective based on your area. I mean, I know when I lived in New England, it didn't get dark till almost 10 o'clock. So we would come outside at like 8 o'clock at night. You have to remember too, this squash, for instance, is very, very susceptible to powdery mildew. And that is caused, now we're talking about a little bit of a disease where the foliage is wet at night and it festers on it. So what we want to do is we want to get in there, get it sprayed with enough time for it to start to dry off of that plant. Then you're starting to cook with some peanut oil. So I'll come out here about 5 o'clock tonight. It gets dark here right now right around 8 o'clock. So it's about 3 hours before dark. There's still a little bit of sun coming from this direction, but it's a low sun. It's not a harsh sun, and it will dry those leaves off significantly before it happens. Now, you don't want to over-treat, meaning you don't want to come out here and just get to town on it and come out here and be like, every day I'm going to spray it. You don't want to do that. You want to just do like the directions say, every 7 to 10 days, at minimum 2 treatments. If you don't want to do the 3rd treatment, you can just watch it and see, but be prepared to do another treatment at the first site. And I would even go as far to say, if you don't do the 3rd treatment and then you see the pest again, maybe 15 days after your 2nd treatment, you're going to need to do 2 more treatments. So in my mind, it's almost better to do the 3 treatments and call it good. And you start to build a rotation within your garden of treatments. Unfortunately, this crop right here is the crop I have to treat the most, because we're also coming into squash vine borer season. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start this treatment now for the beetle that we just found. And I saw him down there, he is. So that's 4 that I've pulled off since I've been recording this video. And then we'll come back and I'll probably alternate weeks, and I'll get more into squash vine borers very soon. I'm going to do a video soon about everything I do to 1, mitigate the damage, 2, eliminate it, and 3, pray for it. So when I say pray for it, I mean the plants, because it's an uphill battle. But this treatment method goes for doesn't matter what you're using. It doesn't matter at all. You still need to do the cleanup sprays. You still need to spray in the afternoons. You could spray in the morning, but I prefer the afternoons. It's cooler. The pollinators are done for the day. So even though this doesn't directly affect the pollinators, it's still not, you're not spraying it directly on them. So, hot water doesn't kill me, but I really don't like to have hot water sprayed on me. So if you're gonna spray hot water, just wait till I leave and then, hit me with the cold water, you know what I'm saying? So it's the same idea. But I sure am glad I came out here today and did this video. It allowed me to be right on top of what I need to do and get these crops healthy so we can continue and hopefully start to get a good harvest this year.